Hello, this is who I am, and I just wanted to talk to you. This is kind of like a birthday message because today is my birthday, and I just turned 30 years, so I'm just a couple of years away from middle age now. And first, I just want to say thank you to all my friends, family and community who have sent me birthday messages today. I've really appreciated it, and it's been really awesome. I had a really good birthday this year. But I wanted to talk about, you know, where I see my work in terms of Lavender Kitchen Sink Collective going, where I feel like I can best be part of movement and part of struggle. Um, the thing that I've wrestled with since I founded Lavender Kitchen Sink Collective in 2012. It's 3 years ago this month. Is that like I've always tried to figure out where my place in liberation, social justice, whatever you call it, where my place in the social justice struggle is. And I've I don't do well with traditional organizing. Some people do. Some people have the personality for it. People who can put themselves out there, who can be visible, who can brainstorm with other people, draw ideas off of them, who can mobilize. That's not really who I am. I've done all that work. In 2 decades of being an activist, I've done pretty much every kind of organizing in terms of social justice that you can think of. But I'm not necessarily great at it. For one, because I'm an introvert, I stay in my head a lot, and so it's hard. Not that I can't work with people, and that I'm not personable, or I can I interact very well with people in general, but it's a lot of it takes a lot of effort for me to do it, because again, I'm an introvert. I stay in my head, and in terms of connecting with people, it's kind of a struggle for me. I never really figured out why that is. So I've tried to figure out ways that I can be involved in movement that are more accessible, that rely a lot more on technology, and just talking and writing and being able to talk about my feelings and what I'm dealing with, because I feel like there's the old feminist saying, from the second so-called second wave feminism, that the personal is political, and that's definitely true of me. I became an activist, almost 16 years ago, because I was an oppressed worker. I was a minimum wage worker earning poverty wages, working full time. I dropped out of community college, and as a young person, I was trying to find my way. And that's why I got involved in economic justice activism. And that's what has led me in terms of my, I guess you could call it, liberation journey, to basically evolving into forms of activism that are a lot more personal. Racial justice, gender justice, LGBTQ organizing. And Lavender Kitchen Sink is the culmination of all those forms of activism. The economic justice piece, the focus on Black people, particularly Black African Americans in the South, the Black diaspora in the United States as a whole, and LGBTQ organizing. The fact that statistically, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, asexual, queer people tend to be poorer than our, cisgender, heterosexual counterparts in terms, across education, race, geography, occupation. We tend to be poorer, and that is why Lavender Kitchen Sink Collective exists, to address all these multiple aspects of why Black LGBTQ people live in poverty, why Black LGBTQ people are disenfranchised in this country, the United States. And what I've found in this journey over the past 3 years is that I feel like I don't do well with campaign-oriented work. Again, I feel like when I'm saying I don't do well, it's not that I can't do it, but it's not really where my strengths are. It's not really where my focus is. It's not where my heart is. What I really focus on is talking about our internal collective community lived experience of oppression. I do very well at that. So a campaign focused on voting rights, a campaign here focused on housing, a campaign here focused on jobs. I can do those things, but that's not really where my heart is, because truth be told, there's always going to be a struggle over economic resources or political access, because black people are an internal colony of the United States. That's not going to change. We were brought here, we were brought from Africa to work this land, to build capital for British North America, eventually the United States of America. And that is our function as African Americans. And regardless of whatever political economic system develops in this country, our position as African Americans within that system is going to be as the beast of burden. Not saying that we won't have some millionaires, billionaires, celebrities, politicians here and there. We're always going to have a Barack Obama or Oprah Winfrey or a Sidney Poitier. We're always going to have those people. We're going to have those people that are famous, that have a lot of money, that have a lot of influence. That doesn't change the fundamental nature of who African Americans are in our relationship to American capitalism and Western capitalism as a whole. It does not change that relationship. And so where I want to be is focusing on trying to figure out how African Americans, specifically Black LGBTQ people in this country, in the southern states that form the Confederacy, how we can get free. That's my mission. That's my goal. I want to know how we can get free. And I want to hear from you how we can get free. Because, again, like American capitalism, we're in the late stage of Western capitalism. We see that with the build-up to this war in Syria, this war against ISIS, the austerity measures here in the United States and in Canada and in Western European countries, been hit very, very hard in Great Britain with austerity measures, attacks on disabled people, attacks on people that rely on welfare. The countries of the West are in crisis mode because we're in a late stage of capitalism, imperialism, and that's why they're having to fight so many wars abroad, to maintain control over the economic resources of places like the Middle East and Africa and Asia, because they need those resources, because the West isn't producing anything anymore. And so that's why they have, Apple has its factories in China. That's why, multinational corporations like Rupert Murdoch's News Corp and Apple and Google, that's why they go from country to country. They don't pay taxes because we're in that late stage. And so these are big, global geopolitical issues that the entire world is facing. But I feel like what I can do is focus on African Americans, those of us in the African diaspora who are descendants of slaves, who were forced to be in the United States and be part of the American machine, and figuring out our position in this late stage of capitalism and imperialism, and how, again, we can be free, how we can connect with our African ancestry, how we can figure out who we are, how we can figure out gender roles and patriarchy, and how we can unpack as African Americans, but as the entire African diaspora, how we can unpack Western colonial patriarchy and how we've internalized that. Something I think about all the time is that I've internalized a very British Protestant idea of what gender is. Depending on who colonized Africans or Asians, whether it was the French, whether it was the Dutch, whether it was the Spanish or Portuguese, we took our understandings of gender and family and society from our colonizer. And in my case as an African American, it was British colonizers here in North America that created our ideas of gender, what a man and a woman are, what being heterosexual or homosexual is, what being cisgender or transgender is. We get it from them. And so I feel like part of my mission is unpacking that, working with other Black people in this country and around the world to unpack, what it means. What did the British leave us with? What was their legacy? Does that impact our lives in the United States, in the Caribbean, in Anglo-American countries around the world to this day? Those are the things I want to figure out. And I would love for you to join me in that. Of course, you can follow me, Lavender Kitchen Sink Collective. It's in terms of the day to day, it's just me. But in terms of a community, there's a lot. A lot. We have a lot of supporters. I want to say also thank you to the nearly 1,400 people. We're at almost 1,400 followers on Facebook. I want to thank you all for that. I want to thank the followers on Twitter as well. And also we have a YouTube channel. I'll put that in the description box, the link below, where you can like us on YouTube as well. Follow Lavender Kitchen Sink on YouTube as well. I want to make more videos. I want to do more events. If you would like me to come speak, into your college campus, your organization. I do have a U.S. passport, so I can travel anywhere in the world. I would really love to come to the United Kingdom. I've wanted to come to Britain since I was a young teenager. So I really definitely want to connect with Black people, transgender people, gay and lesbian people, economic justice fighters in Britain. I would really love to do that. And so yeah. But also, again, thank you to everybody for the birthday wishes. And yeah, let's just keep building. Let's just keep having these conversations. Let's move forward. Let's build the world. The brief time that human beings have on Earth that's remaining, let's continue to build the world that all of us, our families and communities, want to live in. Thank you so much.